Greg Sankey is sending potential shockwaves through the waters in the destined spring meetings. What does that mean for Vandy? What does that mean for the SEC? What does that mean for college football? Ooh, there's some shakeup. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making us part of your day. Thanks for making us your first listen. Today, man, we're going to get into it because Greg Sankey is making some noise down in Destin. SEC's at their spring into summer meetings, and there's could be some potential shakeup. The big topic is the potential changes in the college football playoff, NIL regulation, money, really at the end of the day. But there's some talks of some breakaways. He's threatening some pretty good stuff there in Destin. So Greg Sankey, does it benefit Vandy? Like, what does that do for Vandy if the SEC breaks away? I mean, obviously Vandy's going to go with them. But what does that do for them in this new world of Super League football? That's a hypothetical I'm going to get into as well. Also, with the regionals looming this weekend, you got a 3-game set against starting off with Wright State. Then you got ETSU and Louisville to follow. So how's Tim Corbin going to manage this pitching staff? I'm going to tell you what I would do if I was a manager. Not saying that I'm Tim Corbin, but I'll give you my opinion for what that's worth. And then Clark Lee's got a couple of targets here that really intrigued me for the 2026 class. One of them being an offensive lineman, the other being a new running back target, which is something I think Vandy desperately needs because the depth is just not quite there at the running back. I don't feel good about the depth at the running back position with Vanderbilt's identity. If they weren't such a running team, maybe, I don't know. But there's some targets there in this recruiting class. So, like I said, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. I appreciate you everydayers. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So let's get into it, shall we? It's always interesting in these winter meetings. It is always interesting. There's never a dull moment. It's just one of those deals where you get into it and you're just like, okay, this is absolutely insane. So when you look at how this is all shaking out, it's kind of a bombshell. It's kind of like some waves, some ripple effects, some things that where you're just like, okay, you better buckle up because this thing is about to get rocky. And Greg Sankey sounds like he's had enough of this whole thing. And when the SEC is the dominant conference, eventually, with the NCAA just kind of taking a back seat to everything, which is kind of apropos for them, Greg Sankey's going to step in. Greg Sankey's like, okay, NCAA, if you don't want to take control of this thing, we'll just break off. And he put it out there in the world. Like, I'm sure they've been thinking about it. And the conference, the presidents of the universities in the SEC have given Greg Sankey the permission to, if he sees fit, say, all right, we're gone. See ya. Big Ten, y'all want to come? Like Jerry Maguire style. With Goldfish Bowl. I think the Goldfish Bowl is like the ACC, like the remaining teams in the ACC and Big 12 that want to come along. It's like, okay, we'll take you a little Goldfish, but like it's, hey, who's coming with? I'm leaving. Who's coming with me? And the Big Ten's going to jump right in. So that would be an interesting world of college football if that were to happen. But what is this all about? Ultimately, honestly, it's about money. Really, it's about money. You could say, well, it's about this, it's about that. They want NIL regulation. They want their guaranteed spots in the college football playoff. But ultimately, it's about revenue. And none of that stuff is untrue. But really what it comes down to is money. And money rules the world. So, but Greg Sankey wants to guarantee that the SEC gets 4 auto bids in the new college football playoff model. They want to go to a 16. And this picture of Greg Sankey, I know this is a football topic. This is the only Greg Sankey / Vanderbilt picture I could find. Was the most recent one of him handing a trophy to Tim Corbin. So I know this is a football topic and that's not a football picture, but bear with me on this. But anyway, Greg Sankey wants to guarantee that the SEC gets 4 auto bids in the new college football playoff model. I think that benefit, and of course, everybody's like, oh, Greg Sankey, not looking out for college football. He was ruining college. Greg Sankey's looking out for the SEC. That's what he's paid to. That's what he's paid to do. That's what he's hired to do. That's his job. He's looking out for the SEC. I don't blame him. Is it good for the rest of college football? I don't know. But it's good for the SEC, and that's what he's concerned with. And the other teams will kind of have to get on board with it. I think ultimately it would probably be pretty good for college football to get that model. It'd be some great games. It'd be some great football. Maybe a governing body that'll actually do something and put some regulation on some things and make it a little bit more organized. Those things are good. And I think it'd be great, but he wants to guarantee the SEC gets 4 auto bids. I think if you get the 4 auto bids, Stephen Willis of Locked On Ole Miss, if you want to give him a listen, he's on top of this topic. If they go the route of this, maybe they go to play-in games as well. So like finishing in the top 6 matters, right? It's not just get those 1 and 2 spots with a single table. It's finish in the top 6 and you got a chance. And just imagine like being able to recruit to that, like being able to say, okay, if we could just get in striking distance each year, you know, the resources and all of that, like I think the distribution of money is going to be also allow for more competitive SEC with those 4 auto bids. I think you're going to get more money to distribute amongst the conference members. I think you're going to allow these conference members to get more resources. Looking at you, Vanderbilt, like just imagine if Vanderbilt upped its revenue just with revenue sharing with these 4 conference bids, and Vanderbilt decides they want to start making bowl games each year. Just think of all of the things you could get resource-wise to be competitive in the SEC. Because I think you're starting to see Vandy be more mindful of that. Like, right? I think you're starting to see Vandy go, okay, maybe we can be competitive, right? And so with a little more resources, like we just redid our stadium, we're going to redo the McGugin Center probably. The whole athletic complex is going to take shape. I think a lot of this is due to the fact that the SEC is growing in power in all sports, not just football, but basketball, baseball as well, probably softball, probably women's basketball ultimately. Like I think the SEC is the power conference in just about every sport now at this point. So you're thinking of a conference that makes a boatload of money and you get those resources poured into your university, you get to make your university a really good place. And we all know it, and it happens everywhere, that some of that money gets allocated to the university because you want your university to look great. You want your academic buildings, your student union buildings, your things around campus that make your campus attractive. You want that to happen. You want Vanderbilt or whatever university, you want it to be the best place ever. Now, obviously, you're going to take the bulk of that and put it into your program, and you're going to allocate it to some of the athletics, the Olympic sports and stuff like that. So you're going to ensure, and yes, we're not going to hit the 8 to 10 minute ad mark. I'm sorry about that, but you're not going to hit. You're not going to get a whole lot of pushback on that, right? And I think they're finally starting to see it. I think they see value in having a great athletics program. Finally, this has been a phenomenal academic year. There was a graphic that I saw on social media of like the small handful of teams that have made and won a bowl game, made the NCAA tournament, and made the NCAA baseball tournament. Vandy was on that list. Not a whole lot of SEC teams were on that list. So this has been kind of cool. And this is a transformation that I know all of you out there listening would love to see. Vanderbilt making that transformation into a viable program. Like just think about like the teams that are always on the fringe in the SEC that never quite make it over the hump. The Ole Misses, the Arkansas, the South Carolinas, those type teams. Texas A&M, like you finish in the top 6 now under this new model, you're in there, right? And just think all the recruiting you can get portal wise, all that good stuff. I think it's beneficial, and I think the SEC will cave, or the SEC, the NCAA I think will cave in. You're gonna hear about it very soon. A new college football playoff model where you have 16 teams, 4 auto bids. As soon as this contract expires with the current 12-team model, I think you're going to see a renewal in a 16-team model with play-in games. I think you're going to see this thing all restructured. And it's going to be great. It's going to be great for money distribution. I think with the play-in games, you're going to have better TV revenue on that championship weekend. I think your conference games are going to matter more. I think you're going to get more people on campus because of those atmospheres are going to be that much better. I think it's just going to be all around great for the SEC to be able to have that better money distribution, better TV deals, more TV viewers, and more seats at the table in the college football playoff. Now, some other things they want assurances of NIL and revenue sharing regulation or oversight. Like I think that's well overdue. I think that'll be the next thing. That'll be the next tipping point for the SEC is you're not regulating NIL. You're not regulating the transfer portal. You're not regulating all these things. And they want that oversight. They want that autonomy. They want to be able – they also want that 68% majority rule on that as well. And they want to be able to not have to have everything be unanimous. Like if they want things to pass, like they want that. And that benefits the Big Ten as well. But that doesn't necessarily benefit the SEC and the Big 12. But do they really have a choice? And make sure you leave in the comments. Make sure you talk about all this. But when you talk about NIL and you talk about transfer portal, the biggest conversation I hear people that I know, people in my circles and things like that, when they talk about all this stuff, I love the idea of NIL. I love the idea of the transfer portal. I really do. But I do think it needs some guardrails because I do think it's going to get out of control if it hasn't already. And I think it kind of already has. Like with NIL, like you had the Nico Iamaleava situation. Like that doesn't happen if there's contracts, if there's money to pay back, if it's not so easy to break an NIL deal and just transfer at the drop of a hat. Like I think there's some scenarios where if you had some regulations and maybe they can put some people in those seats with some big brains to come up with those scenarios. I don't pretend to know what those scenarios are. I would love to hear some ideas. I might even think of a few myself, but I think one of them has to involve contracts. And to get some oversight like that, to get some regulation, I think would also benefit. And I think that's also what these coaches want, the league wants. And I think if Greg Sankey decides that's another avenue of all of his gripes and all the reasons that he wants to break off, I think you get into a world where the SEC and Big Ten break off into their own super league. They make their own transfer portal rules. They make their own NIL rules. Here's how it's going to be with revenue sharing. Live with it or go play wherever else you want to play. Like you don't have to join our league if you do not want to play by these rules. And I think it'll make things cleaner. I think the competitive edge and competitive balance will be a lot better. I think you'll get to a more traditional model of college football where you can identify with the rosters a lot better, but at the same time, have enough player movement to where guys are getting in the right situations and you have enough NIL stuff that where guys are getting paid appropriately in the world of college football. So I think it's kind of the best of both worlds. I think there's got to be a lot more layers to that regulation to make it happen. Because there's a lot of caveats in a lot of situations. But I think when you look into it, this got to be it. But the root of all of it is this. With better money distribution, rising programs get more resources and you get more parity, right? More money equals more resources equals more parity, which for the viewer is big time, right? I think you get big time viewership. I think you dominate the TV markets, and I think you start raking in the cash, right? That's where all the money is. Parity. Why do you think the NFL is so great? Parity. Any team can beat any team at any moment in any year. Like it's amazing. Like the dynasties, they don't last very long, right? Like the Chiefs dynasty, like this has been going on for a little while. Like the Patriots were dominating, but there was other teams that would come up and challenge them. And that's why it was interesting. That's why it was compelling. 18-game schedule or 17-game schedule, it's still just as compelling as it was with the 16-game schedule, right? Not having that fourth preseason game hadn't skipped a beat. The NFL is as strong as it's ever been with TV deals, with international games. Like I think you're starting to see college football break those barriers down a little bit. Like I think the more money, the more revenue you can get, if you can get the NCAA to buy into that and actually grow some, some marbles, and start regulating some stuff, maybe you'll get a world of college football where you get enough of the traditional stuff to be able to identify with the traditionalist fans, and you get enough of the new age stuff to where you'll be able to get new viewership in, right? You get all the traditions, you preserve as much as you can with the understanding that in order to move forward, you have to move forward. And some of that stuff gets left in the dust, so be it, okay? So be it. So, I think it's the best of both worlds. I think college football has to find a way to find some parity as best as they can. I also think, side note, that outside of the Power Four, I think you should have another layer of playoffs for the other. For that sounds so bad. For the low, that sounds bad too. Good Lord. For the conferences that aren't Big Ten, SEC, ACC, and Big 12, like for the conferences that aren't those four, I think you have a playoff system for them as well. Kind of treat it like you do FCS, Division II, Division III. All right. I think if you have it layered like that, you can have multiple national championships. People will watch that stuff. I promise you. There's enough college football junkies that will watch a G5, G8, whatever you want to call it. I think you would get enough viewership that they would watch those playoffs. People watch the FCS playoffs. There's people that are crazy enough that watch the Division II playoffs. I don't know if anybody watches. I don't think they televise the Division III playoffs. But they televise the semifinals and finals, and that's enough. I think that gets enough viewership too. So I think there's something to that. So creating parity is the biggest deal. But speaking of parity, college baseball is great, man. There's a lot of parity in college baseball for a lot of reasons. And Tim Corbin is going to have to manage this pitching staff. That's been his biggest strength. How's he going to do it in the regionals? How does his pitching staff align? I'll give you my thoughts on it next. All right, presented by FanDuel, right? Can you imagine? This NBA playoff season has been really, really good, really fun. And this has been second to none. And just imagine this college football season is going to be absolutely outstanding as well. Like when you get into some of those future bets, like I said, smash the over on the 4.5 wins with Vandy. But anyway, FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game. Even with the NBA, even with current games, like you can get in live, you can get in before tip-off, before kickoff with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. So just think about this. I took a prop on Anthony Edwards' total points. I lost that prop because I gave him too much credit, and Oklahoma City shut him down. Think about some of I love live betting with MLB. I love getting in the seventh inning of some of these games and betting the over-under on that. I'll nickel and dime that all day long. And guess what, man? If I've got a read on something that's heating up, I can jump right on it with the same game parlay as well. So think about this, $200 in bonus bets if you hit your first $5 bet. Just think about all the possibilities that you can do with that. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com right now. Place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA and college football and MLB and all of the above. All right, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We appreciate it. If you need a second listen, check out Locked On SEC, Locked On Ole Miss, especially with this perspective on this Greg Sankey college football proposal stuff. Like, just think about that. They make great points on that. Follow Stephen Willis' show all throughout. So how's Tim Corbin going to manage his pitching staff? I think it's a challenge because, you're in a situation to where it's not a regular, you can't just go with the standard Friday, Saturday, Sunday guy because of the matchups, right? And I think it makes it interesting because you get in a scenario to where, like, okay, let's say you throw J.D. Thompson against Wright State because it's Friday. Now you get to Louisville and you're throwing Austin Nye, who I love Austin Nye, but I just don't trust him quite yet because he's a freshman against a team like Louisville when he's already struggled. He struggled in the midweek game that they had, and ultimately Vanderbilt struggled in that game, especially in the sixth inning. That was pretty bad. So, but it's it's crazy. But you get your regionals there, you get your regional games, and it's going to be outstanding. So you kick it off against Wright State, and then you go ETSU, and then you go with Louisville. And so it's it's going to be really, really fun to see kind of how these games play out and how these pitching staffs and how he manages this thing. And it's going to be quite awesome. And so you're going to, it's going to be, and the way the regionals are set up, it's going to be really good dynamite baseball. And so I'm really excited about that. So it's going to be, the winner. I think the winners will play. It's double elimination. So like, let's say Vanderbilt and Louisville win. I think they'll play on the 31st. So like you'll get your ace then, and then you get your loser bracket, and then you have your elimination bracket, and it kind of just goes through, I guess. It's kind of fun. So how does it shake out? Right? How does he manage this staff? All right. These are some notes. And I love these visuals because it keeps me on track. It prevents me from rambling a little bit, but elite pitching, especially in the bullpen. I think he does a good job of managing this stuff. But that's not the point. The point is, how is he going to manage all of this, and how is he going to take this pitching staff and make it what it is? I think you have to, like I said, you kind of have to plan out as if you're going to win all throughout, because eventually you're going to get to ETSU. And so do you save Cody Bowker against ETSU? Like if I had my druthers, I would throw Austin Nye right away against Wright State, and let's just see what we got. And if he struggles, you throw your bullpen out there. You got Fennell out there as kind of a long reliever that can come in as kind of your de facto starter if Austin Nye gets beat up against Wright State, because they do hit the ball really well there at Wright State. So then you got Bowker against ETSU if you can save him. But I think if you get a matchup with Louisville, I think you got to throw JD Thompson in there, right? I don't think he's going to stick to specific days. I think it's a little bit more than that. I think he's got to manage, okay, we're going to save this guy for this, because you're going to get – theoretically, you're going to get a Louisville Vanderbilt matchup in the next game. So, you go, it's going to be crazy. And you're going to see just where Tim Corbin is with this. And you got to save the bullpen as best you can. Like if Austin Nye is cruising against Wright State, you just let him throw. And maybe you let him get through 5, and then you throw some of your bullpen guys out there just to get them some work. If you're about to run rule them, like maybe you get a McIlvain in there for a confidence boost, or you gotta. I think for this postseason run, you got to find that balance between saving your bullpen and getting those guys enough innings to where in a super regional 3-game set, you have enough to go. And in a College World Series scenario in Omaha, you have the bullets in the gun there to be able to get through and be able to have your pitching staff truly be your advantage. So anyway, starters need to go 5-6 minimum. I think you need to get some quality starts in the regionals. I think when you get to super regionals, I think you can start to kind of, throw the kitchen sink. And then especially when you get to Omaha, there's nothing to lose when you get to Omaha. But you have Fennell there as kind of your swing guy, your fourth guy or whatever. But anyway, there's some targets on the hook for Clark Lee that I really like. There's one guy that I'd be surprised. I'd be really surprised if he left the weekend uncommitted. This football program continues to do great things. We'll talk about it next. All right. Welcome back. We're wrapping up the show here. It got late early, as the great Yogi Berra said. I had a really, really long first segment there with the college football playoff stuff. But at Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms, if you want to follow the show, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. But when you're looking at recruiting, okay, I'm going to shine a little bit of light on recruiting because we're about to get into camp season. We're about to get into camp/official visit season. And this is where typically in the college football world, you see a flurry of commits from high school because they're all at camps, they're all visiting. And this is a big recruiting season for colleges. So Quinn Buckey, a guy we talked about before, offensive tackle, 6'6", 270, a little bit on the lighter side. But I think if he can get to school around 290, I think he can play at 305, 310 and not lose any of his quickness. I think he is, I think Vanderbilt has got to be in the driver's seat for him. He canceled his official visit to Arizona. He's coming all the way from Bakersfield, California. He's going to be at Vandy this weekend. To be honest with you, and I'm reading Robbie's report here, and Robbie's putting his prediction at a 5 for Crystal Ball. And he said he may increase it. You know what? I think the fact that he canceled his official visit to Arizona, I think this means that unless something disastrous happens this weekend at Vandy to ruin his visit, I think he's going to be a Commodore. I really think he's going to be committing to Vandy. And you get a guy with this body type and, somebody it's going to be a quick develop. Maybe it's one season in the weight room. It's not going to be a ability to play thing. I think it's not going to, I think he fits in right at quick tackle. He's got the frame, he's got the size, the length, all that good stuff. I really like this. I really like this prospect if he can commit. I have a lot of confidence that he will. And you get these guys and, I think it's something that where you give it a shot and they haven't had a great track record in developing high school offensive linemen in the past, but guess what the past is? It's the past. And guess who's there? Like, I think Coach K has not had to develop a whole lot of high school offensive linemen. So I think that, that number and that idea is probably skewed in the wrong direction. We just don't know. I think he can. I think if you have the right guy in there, I think he can. And so he has a pretty impressive offer list. And, he's got Wisconsin. If Wisconsin offers you as an offensive lineman, that's a pretty special thing. Like I think it's a pretty special thing. So, this would be a good get if he can get out of Nashville committed. I think that'll be a huge, huge bump in the right direction for this program, for recruiting, and just for optics. Just for optics. And another kid that I really like that's on the radar that I'll take the last few minutes to talk about is you lose out on KD Jones, you lose out on Evan Hampton. I thought Evan Hampton, it was going to be tailor-made for him. KD Jones, I thought maybe it would have been a little too big of a fish. But any running back should watch Vandy play and go, whew, I can go there because they're going to run the ball. Okay. So Coach Mo Langford is getting a running back out of Atlanta, out of Sequoia High School, 5'11", 195. I think if he can pick up this commitment, I think you have a good chance at getting a quality running back that is tough, has a little bit of agility, and can really is fast enough. I mean, he's not game breaker, home run type. He hits a hole and he's gone, cloud of dust, and nobody behind him. But I think he's got some really good game speed. And in the state of Georgia and the Atlanta area, he rushed for 1,500 yards, which is pretty impressive. He in that Fulton County, Cobb County. I can't remember where Sequoia is. I think they're in Cobb. But I mean, this guy shows great vision, great awareness, and I think he'd be a great fit for what Vandy wants to do. He kind of reminds me of a Cedric Alexander. Honestly, the way he plays. I mean, he's got great awareness, great toughness, understanding where the run lanes are. I think he's got more than enough burst to get chunk yardage and make big plays. Pretty good in the pass game and in the screen game. I don't know about downfield passing, but I think he's got enough lateral speed to be able to get the edge. I think he could be a really good, fine running back for and he's got Kansas State, NC State right now on his official visit list. If he can add Vanderbilt to that list, I think this would be somebody that I think you've got to make a hard push for. And I think they could get it. I think you cut on the film and go, you see 28? Yeah, that's you. This is you. Go get it, right? And I think that would be good. Will Rajecki. I think that's how you say his name. Will, if you're listening to this, you can feel free to correct me as you wish. But anyway, that would be an exciting get for Vanderbilt at the running back position. I think they need somebody, that's going to make some plays. And, we know Cedric Alexander is that guy. But, what do you have really behind him that's proven? Kalen Young has been banged up. He's got the ability, just got to produce. I just don't feel great about the depth at running back right now. I really don't, because behind Cedric Alexander, it's A.J. Newberry who's coming off a major injury. It's Michaelan Young who's coming off injury and stays hurt. And, you can't really rely on him to stay out of the training room. And then what else? Freshmen that haven't played in this league? I don't know. It's just unproven. I'm not saying these guys aren't talented. It's just unproven. And that's worrisome. But you got Diego Pavia. You can kind of figure it out. This offensive line is going to create some really nice running lanes, by the way. So anyway, but that's all the fun we're going to have, at least for this episode. And we'll see you back here next time. Locked On Vandy. Remember, check out Locked On Portal as well if you want to follow Brian Smith and the Locked On Transfer Portal show. That's gaining some heavy steam there, so you check that out on your way out after you listen to the run of SEC shows on this network. But until next time, this is Locked On Vandy. Like, subscribe, anchor down, behave yourselves, and of course, peace out.